I was nervous. I was really nervous because, again, like you said, we knew why they're there in the home. And having that knowledge going in, I didn't know what to expect.
And so she had this perpetual fear that her mom would get rid of her. And her mom said, hey, we need money, so this is what you need to do. And started filming her and putting her online. Her and her little sister.
What people don't get either is like sex tourism, like that's normal for people. Get the boys together, just like going golfing.
Yeah, some of the things that were captured in the video, when you see it firsthand, it's like, wow. I think there's one scene where there's an older gentleman walking, holding hands with a much younger girl. You know they're not relatives. And it just really, that one particular scene just brought it home for me, like, this is what's happening. This is reality that's down here.
Hey guys, welcome to the Lightbox Missions podcast. We have another one. It's so exciting to have Derek Livernoy with Mana Worldwide. And yeah, Derek, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's a pleasure. I love hanging out with you guys, and love talking about our trip together and what Mana Worldwide's all about.
Well, we're going to get into a lot of things. I want to talk about your background, which is so interesting. I mean, entrepreneur, professional baseball player, missions now, world traveler, and it is raining. So if you can hear that, it is absolutely dumping right now. This is a massive storm over us, but we're rolling with it. And we believe God is good, and whatever conversations come out of this is special and
Amen.
Ordained.
Yeah.
So, Derek, out of high school, you were drafted to the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, that's right.
That's huge. I mean, it's probably something that, people tell you all the time, and it's not really that big of a deal anymore for you. But for somebody that is not a sports ball guy at all, but has a family of sports enthusiasts and stuff, I know that's a big deal. And you were in for about 9 seasons, minor leagues, and then into the majors as well, right?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be on the big league roster for my last 3 years of my career. But it's funny you say it's interesting or important to a lot of people, because baseball people become obsessed, I think. And Shelly and I, my wife, we talk about this quite a bit. We've moved through and we'll get there, about my corporate career 10 times throughout this country. And we just moved again, actually, in January. And I still get letters and baseball cards in the mail asking people for me to sign those things. Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's so good.
And I was a nobody. I can imagine somebody, that's actually really good.
Wow.
Well, we need some baseball cards now.
I'm sure Shelly could make that happen.
I found some on eBay. We can't afford them.
Yeah.
We can't afford them.
Yeah. Well, if you have change for a 5, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I was using ChatGPT just to help me with some research this morning to get some notes down, and it pulled up a bunch of your baseball cards. I was like, this is awesome. Spitting image, too. I mean, you haven't aged a day.
Oh, wow. That's very kind.
So after, 9 years in a professional career, were you, did you know God during this time? What did that look like? Where was your heart at through those 9 years?
Yeah, I love to tell the stories, so I appreciate you asking that. I actually came to know the Lord when I was 12 years old. We lived in Southern California, and which Disneyland was really big back then, still is, right? And we went to a church called Melodyland.
Melodyland.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
so
cool.
that's where I, at 12 years old, accepted the Lord as my Savior. But what was really interesting during that time is my dad was a chiropractor, and he, for 40 years, just sold his practice, and we as a family decided to take a trip around the country for 3 months in a motorhome and see the United States. Well, I think discipleship's super important. So back then at 12 years old, I had nobody to teach me once I made that decision.
Yeah.
And so as we went on that trip, and then as I got into high school and was getting drafted to go play baseball, I felt like I had 1 foot, maybe closer to 2 feet in the world, and maybe just a toe in my relationship with the Lord. So it wasn't where it needed to be, for sure.
Well, what do you feel like you learned just in terms of perseverance during just that professional season? I mean, because you must have been just all in. Like, this is my career. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do. Your mind is just, I can imagine. I mean, I used to cycle semi-professionally, and that was everything.
Yeah.
That was my entire life.
Yeah.
Sun up to sundown, and I didn't have time for anything else. What did you learn that, you probably could have used just in the professional career after baseball, just in terms of perseverance?
Well, I don't think I think we all say, right, I wish I knew then what I know now, right? I think that's a common saying. But as I was going through that, I think I was more interested in the things that came with the sport. So when you think about the money that comes with that, there's a little bit of fame involved, especially in the cities that we played in. And then also the extracurricular activities, right? And so I was more wrapped up in those things that baseball brought to me than I was being as serious about the game. I did what I was asked to do, but I didn't really, I wasn't driven like I think a lot of the other players were.
So after baseball, you jumped into professional career. I know you've done some restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
This was new to me. We were talking before, and I was like, "This is a man after my own heart." Man, like we have so much in common. And from the first time we talked, I was just like, "Whoa,
yeah,
this is just like an older, wiser version of me."
Oh, boy.
That's quite a compliment. But
which is super inspiring. So you did some restaurants, but then you also general management with CarMax.
yes, yeah.
Tell us about, I just want to know, like, the restaurants, which is always such a random thing, I feel like. When I tell people, it's like, yeah, I've owned a restaurant. Like, wait, what? And I've done some real estate. Wait, what? What was that like for you?
This is a big part of my story and a big part of my wife in my story. So after baseball, there wasn't a plan B.
Right.
And so, and I wasn't a student. The part that we didn't mention was, as I was in high school, we lived in Florida. I think back then, so this was a while ago. I'm not going to state my age over the air, but
let's not date the show.
But back then, you were allowed to miss 45 days of school and still get credit for passing for that year. I was on a surfboard for 43 of those days, my senior year of high school. So that was my passion. Baseball, God blessed me with the talent. So that's why I got to where I was going to go. But anyway, I didn't have a plan B for baseball. And so we, through a couple other jobs that I had before the restaurant business, moved to North Carolina. And unfortunately, Shelly's dad, my father-in-law, who was my best friend at the time, he was awesome, and I learned a ton from him, was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. And so that's a death sentence, if you're not familiar with that, ALS. And so the company I was working for had asked us to move back to Atlanta, where we had moved from. And Shelly and I talked, and I was like, I can work anywhere. We'll figure this out, but let's stay here and spend the time we can with your dad while we can. Yeah. They had moved to North Carolina at the same time. And so I got together with a relative of hers in North Carolina, and we bought our first restaurant, which was a pizza franchise called Papa's Pizza to Go in the Southeast. That family member ended up leaving. It wasn't for him. And then I ended up buying a second one, and things are good for a while. But this is where our story gets really interesting. these are little small towns in North Carolina, and during that time, the economy just really started to suffer, and we ended up losing both of those restaurants, and almost ended up, because of the finances and because of all those things.
Was this like 2008 time? When
It was like early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
So a few years earlier, almost lost everything. Almost my marriage.
Wow.
And so 2003 is when I started at CarMax, because I felt like I needed to go and help support my family. But all those other things behind the scenes were going on. So I actually moved down to Georgia. My wife and daughter moved in with her mom at that point after her dad had passed away. And that's when the Lord got a hold of me finally, because I was so mad that he'd taken my father-in-law, had taken my business, taken all of these things in my mind. And I said, where have you been? That's when God revealed to me, he's like, I've been here the whole time. You're the one that's left. And so, and Shelley was struggling with some of the same things. So it wasn't until we got our vertical relationship right with each other that our vertical relationships with the Lord helped form our relationship back together. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to us, which is strange to say. But God has blessed after we made him first in our marriage. So
Wow.
It's amazing.
Man, that hits home, I feel like, with a lot of people just after loss. You know,
yeah,
the Lord, I mean, he has to take you to the end of your rope until you're like, wait, and you kind of like wake up. I don't know. I know a lot of people have dealt with that. I know Shaddai has. You know, I haven't lost anybody recently in the last, 10, 15 years, but I have lost, like, grandparents
Sure.
and aunts and uncles, but not in-laws or parents or anything. And I couldn't imagine.
yeah.
For me personally, I just can't imagine
Yeah,
what that would
it's-
do to my faith.
Yeah, it's really important to take the time with your family and spend as much time as you can with them, because you never know. And all the memories, like, they start disappearing, and then the only thing that's left is that last few months, and those are the most vivid memories
Yeah.
of the worst time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing this, your story of faith and kind of testimony. Yeah, that's awesome. That's powerful. So after, CarMax, which must have been just the most fulfilling job on the planet.
Well,
I'm being a little facetious,
it's
but
funny, yeah,
where you're at now, it's just kind of like, what was that like? Was it life-giving? I mean, that's a long time to be in one career.
Yeah, a little over 22 years. My last day was May 30th of this year, actually.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I told this to one of the regional vice presidents, one of the guys that hired me in Charlotte, North Carolina. The role was to go buy cars. So I had no idea a job like that even existed.
Wow.
Right. And so my comment to him was, this is one of the coolest things I've ever done since play professional baseball back then, because I got to fly around the country
And just
and
buy
spend
cars.
millions of dollars and buy cars. And I was like,
That sounds
how
great.
cool is that?
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like every guy's dream.
Yeah. Well, not only that, I got to fly on the company plane every single week
Oh, wow.
up to Mannheim, Pennsylvania, which is the
It's
largest
a
auction
private
in the
plane
world.
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
And then we take the new guy, because it was supposed to be a 7-seat plane.
Yeah.
We'd always have somebody we were training. We'd take that new guy, and so the 7th seat was actually the toilet. So you
what?
sit. That was the seat, and there was a seat belt there.
So you just hung out and
So
the new guy.
So that's where they sat. That's where we put those guys.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
The new guy hung out in the toilet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
terrible. I mean, it's still a good experience. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
it's gonna
yeah.
be the best private toilet.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it never got used. I mean, it was a seat.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
and, well, like I said, it never got used. So.
Oh man. Well, that's a very different flight experience than we had. all the way going to the Philippines.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
a long trip.
It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, and we should talk about that a bit because you and I kind of were on the same. I mean, so it was last year,
Yep.
almost May of last year or so, May or June of last
It was
year.
close.
It was September.
It was October.
Oh,
You guys
I'm
are you
way
guys
off.
are both close.
Yeah,
You got the
2024.
year right.
2024.
Yeah, that's right. I missed my wife's birthday. was that?
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, yeah.
No. I'm not talking about the trip to the Philippines. I'm talking about before then, before when Derek and I first met.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we met before then, and we were going to the same church. And I had this vision for Lightbox Missions. Wanted to do something. Wanted to try to get connected. I was already talking to mission pastors and different people that had some nonprofits, and just trying to figure out where God was moving my heart,
Yeah.
so that I could come back to the company, back to my business partner. Should I say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what God is putting in my heart. Where are you with this? What can we do with this? And then you and I met, and we got connected. It's like, oh, well, there's a trip going to the Philippines. You got to go talk to Derek. So I think we met. Where did we met at a corner bakery.
Yeah.
Had some coffee, and we were both kind of on the same trajectory of feeling this tug on our hearts of
Yeah.
like, there has to be more than just chasing success and dollars and just the daily grind. And we both aligned in a very funny, surprising way with where our faith was, how God was stretching it, and how we were both kind of at the end of our rope and needing something more fulfilling. At least for me, I need something more fulfilling, and I think that we both were kind of on that same brainwave.
Yeah, I think that's right. And where my story started was a little bit before that.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Philippines, I actually had a pastor at that same church that you and I were going to, that had come to me in May of that year. That may be where May came up. That just said, hey, Derek, since the day I met you, you're the guy that needs to advocate for these two ministries in the Philippines. And I've been with CarMax for 20 some years, and was, I think culture teaches us, or tries to teach us, that, hey, you work hard, then you retire, and then you enjoy life, right? That's kind of the way our culture teaches. And like you just said, Samuel, like, I wasn't feeling that sense of fulfillment, like, at work, and I just felt like there was something more. Well, that pastor had mentioned that to me. In the back of my mind, I'm like, no, that's not what's supposed to happen here. Like, I don't, I didn't tell him he was crazy, but in my mind, I was like, no, I've never thought about missions. It's not something that was ever really been on my radar. But it's interesting as we go through life and we sit under different leaders, right? Our pastor at church, and if I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. He said, what are you doing to help further the kingdom? And for whatever reason that day, God was like, yeah, what are you doing? And so I kind of put that in my back pocket, just kind of sat on it.
Did it make you feel guilty?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was some guilt there, because, man, I've checked all the boxes, right? I teach Sunday school. I'm helping to disciple other folks, but God, I felt like, wanted more from me. And so there was a day that I wasn't teaching on Sunday morning, and James 1:27 was kind of brought out, which is true and undefiled religion is this, that we care for orphans and widows in their distress and stay unstained from the world. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. It almost felt like, and I tell people this, like God grabbed me by my shirt and said, this is what I want you to do. And so I call that pastor back. He's the same one that texted you probably. And I said, okay, I need to hear more about what you're talking about, what these ministries are. Next thing I know, I'm on a hour-long FaceTime call with Keith McDougall, who is the executive director, the founder of Agape Manna Home, which is the orphanage that we got to visit when we went. And we just really connected. So I said, okay, I need to see more. That's when I made the plans to go to the Philippines. And then I get a random text that says, hey, go meet this guy named Samuel for coffee. And that's where you told your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very random. Like very random.
Yeah.
Like all the stars aligned, and then I think the trip also was moved a few days to where like we could actually do it.
Well,
and
yeah, that's I love that part of the story, because this I don't believe it was a coincidence. I think God orchestrated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that morning that you and I met, Samuel, at Corner Bakery, my wife had told me, she's like, we can't go the dates that you picked for our plane tickets. And truth be told, Shelley was hesitant about going. She was trying to give her ticket away because it is a long ways away.
Yeah.
But anyway, she said we can't go those dates because we made a commitment for that week. And that morning, I had changed the flights to the only week that you guys could go.
right.
And so that was.
But even and I love that, but even our meeting and me even knowing about this trip and you, like I put off, so South Spring Church, where we were, joining my wife and I, and
Yeah.
they wanted us to go through the whole process, and we just kind of kept putting that off because I don't know, we just kept putting it off to go and just meet and do all the steps to join the church and become members.
Yeah.
But I think that we kept putting it off because it wasn't until we actually met and had the meeting and went through the whole thing that they met with you, I think a week prior. So
Okay.
it was like all the stars aligned to where, I was able to share what our vision was and our story. And I was like, oh, well, we just had a meeting with Derek, and
Yeah.
this is exactly what he's going to start doing.
Yeah.
And then we met, and I don't know, I just love it. And then that was, yeah. And then we got to do this trip, and really that was kind of the first Lightbox Missions vision film that we were able to create for Agape Home.
Yeah.
We created two. So
Yeah, and the Eden Project,
the Eden Project.
which we were not expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I think when Shaddai and I figured out, we're like, oh, there's two ministries here. Oh, there's two videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? I don't know, but Shaddai, I mean, I've traveled all over the world. You've not traveled as much. What was that like? And like, I'm always curious of like people that don't, are not just traveling all the time when they go, especially that far, 16 hours in a plane. What was it like having to jump out of the plane and then immediately be in production mode?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of a layover, and then we did the whole. I think it was 23 hours, the full trip. Yeah, no, it was part of it. We knew that we had to. We were there on a tight timeline.
Yeah.
We only had a couple days to get a story. And just along for the ride. I remember now what was interesting is getting off into Manila Airport.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, we're used to a lot of airports being organized and things being readily accessible. That is not the case over there. And so we just grabbed our bags and we're pretty much immediately outside, and it was hot. And it was nighttime. It was already getting dark, and then getting in the car in a van. We got picked up by Keith, and as soon as we're getting in the car and bringing in our luggage, there was some little kids trying to hustle us.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, is this little kid with you guys? No. He's just trying to get some money.
Yeah.
And then we got in the car and there's traffic.
Yeah.
The most incredible amount of traffic that we were like, we're gonna get hit. Like, it's bumper to bumper. There's motorcycles coming left and right, and barely 1 inch away from the van. I'm like, and when we see the traffic just going and going and going nonstop, we're like, wow, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
How many trips, Derek, before that have you been on? Did you do a lot of short-term missions, or did you do anything
No, like as I mentioned before, like missions was foreign to me until it was presented.
So it's like, wow, that's wild. How much have you ever traveled to what we would consider a third or second world country?
Yeah, I actually played winter baseball in Mexico.
Okay.
So did that for a couple of years. But to me, I mean, that's like right next door. So it wasn't really, it was a 2.5 hour flight from Florida where I was. And I mean, it really wasn't that.
So it was kind of culture shock for everybody going over there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I think God moved in amazing ways. I mean, I know he did. And the film that we were able to create was powerful.
Yes. Yeah,
it's powerful.
I would love for more people to. We need to make sure. And I know you've got it out there, but the work that you guys put out was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Derek. When we arrived at Agape Manna Home, I remember you getting out there pretty early on, you and Shelly, and the kids were just in love with you guys. They just, and I remember, so tell me, how was that experience just sitting down by we have a swing set outside, you guys are sitting down just getting to know these little tiny kids.
Yeah, I don't think we knew what to expect. We knew what the ministries were. Mm-hmm. I think we were more nervous about going to Project Eden just because about what those girls have been through. Yeah. I think babies, I think Agape Manna currently right now, I think when we went, they had 24 kids. I think they have about 22 now. But I think kids just want you to spend time with them. Yeah. And I think I learned a lot from that trip from those babies, just because they were just so eager for attention and for folks to pour into them. I think that's a great life lesson.
Just real quick, just so people that don't know what we're talking about, could you just give like a quick overview of just what those two ministries do?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Agape Manna Home was founded, as I mentioned, by Keith McDougall and his wife, Nan. Nan has a unique story on her own. She survived the Vietnam War as a child and is partially deaf from some of the bombs that actually fell in Vietnam. So that's another story for another day. Maybe.
And she was an orphan too.
She was, yes. Both Keith and Nan were. When Keith tells his story, he talks about being an orphan. But God had placed on their heart early on, as they were missionaries in Uzbekistan, that they needed to start an orphanage in the Philippines. If folks aren't aware, UNICEF estimates that there's 1.8 million orphans in the Philippines. And so it's a huge, problem, if you will. There's not enough places for these kids to go. So Keith and Nan felt the calling to do that, but also to be able to take care of these babies and give them a life, not only feed them, clothe them, give them shelter, educate them, make sure they're taken care of physically, but also pour into them spiritually. And even though they're young, I think kids can understand that we have a Savior that loves us. And I think early on, these kids begin to learn that by the way they're taken care of. So Agape Manna Home is the orphanage where they take care of these babies for the hope of getting adopted into a Christian home. They also require a certain type of visitation from the Filipinos. They're in country that as it's predominantly a Catholic region. And so as these Filipinos come to adopt these kids, Keith and Nan, through those visits, get to share the gospel. So their success rate at Agape Manna Home is 85% of those folks come to know the Lord, and then these kids get adopted into a Christian home. Wow. Their daughter, Chelsea, has founded Project Eden, which is the other ministry. I mentioned there's 1.8 million orphans. Estimates now that have come from Project Eden, I've heard from both Corey and Chelsea, that over 80% of those kids they estimate have been sexually abused or trafficked online. And so Chelsea and Corey have established a home for girls that have been abused or trafficked online to be able to be rescued from that industry. And so that's what Project Eden does. They do the same thing that Keith or Nan are doing, but for these older girls, where they educate them. It's a family, and they raise them. They end up raising them because the courts in the Philippines, some of those cases can take up to 10 years. So what happens is these girls end up living there as a family and then aging out. And but they also get one-on-one counseling every week. They actually have a counselor that because these girls have been traumatized. And so both very, very valuable ministries over there in the Philippines.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
it's the stuff that we can't even comprehend here.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's happening globally,
Yeah.
and it's a problem globally.
Yeah. It's 8 times worse in the Philippines than it is here in the States.
Yeah,
And some of the girls, they also have a timeline for the orphans to get adopted.
Yeah.
And it's usually easier for them to get adopted within the Philippines versus going outside of state because it just becomes enormously expensive.
Yeah.
You know. And then so we were able to spend some time, you know, at the orphanage, where they have some cool things like regenerative, like farming, and they're growing like herbs and stuff. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then we were able to also see where these orphans are coming from too. So Keith took us, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, down, which was really startling for me, how close we were
Yeah.
to abject poverty. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, without going, it'd be really hard to describe. I think we hear about in the States, like we live in one of the most richest countries in the world, and I think we know that. But I do think that, like you said, Samuel, I think we just don't talk about it. We don't get to hear about it. But if you had a choice on what pair of shoes to wear today, you're richer than 90% of the folks that live in our world.
yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. But yeah, the traffic that you mentioned, Shaddai, they put stickers on cars over there that says you're not allowed to drive this car this day of the week because of the traffic. And then the poverty, we got to go into some of those places where the filming took place, right? They have these folks called squatters. And so they live in these tent cities on other people's property. The way the government's set up in Manila is that if a squatter stays on somebody's piece of property for a certain period of time, I don't remember what the length of time is, but that owner of that property, if they want them to leave, they have to pay that squatter to leave.
No.
Which is, it's just because there's no land. It's a group of 1,000 islands that there's just no land available. So these folks that live in extreme poverty, just really live off the land, off of some of these rivers that we got to see, and some of these just cardboard cities and corrugated tin cities that these folks just have to reside in.
Yeah. When we went, it was about, I would say like couple, like not even half a mile walk. Down this narrow path. So the orphanage is up on a hill, and we walked down the hill into this forest area. And as we're walking, you can see the trash start piling up. It's more accumulated on the path, and we're going through these narrow little pathways that somebody has carved out over the years. And as we get down there, there's these tin little boxes and a bunch of electrical cables that the electricity is being stolen by the squatters. So it looks like a rat's nest of electrical cables coming down in this little ravine area. And you hear dogs barking, and there's kids running around barefooted. There's trash everywhere.
Yeah.
And the people are living in these conditions. We were able to get in one of the homes to do a little bit of filming, and the floor is dirt. And you could see, if you look up, you'll see holes anywhere, any corner. So you could only imagine if it rains, what's the situation?
Yeah.
You know, there's probably water everywhere. And then as we were filming, we went by, there's this river, and we could see the kids bathing in the river. And again, there's trash everywhere, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a very sobering situation, you know, where we look at what we have here in the States, and it's like, wow, this is definitely not, it's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Derek, why is it important for people to be involved in stuff like this? Why was it important for you, but just in general, people?
Yeah, God's really changed my perspective. If you ask my wife, it started a long time ago, probably a couple of years ago, and then God presented the Philippines to me, and which actually just really increased my heart for these folks. But yeah, we started downsizing. God really started revealing to me that, you know, these material things that we have here just aren't important. And it's interesting. We'll talk about Manna here in a few minutes, but as I started with Manna Worldwide, I actually put a post. I'm not on social media much, but I wanted to tell folks about this change after this 22-year career, and that this is the place where God has led me. And I got a quote back from somebody I hadn't talked to in years, but it's just been resounding with me for these last several months. And that's, young men go to work to make a living. Old men go to work to make a difference. And while that may not be biblical, man, that's resounded with me big time, because that's what God has really shown me is like, I need to make a difference. And little, you know, Derek that lives in Tyler, Texas, that's what we're called to do. And so the Philippines had a profound impact on me as I got to see like these, what really resounded with me, those kids, the story you just told, Shaddai, about going down and walking down by that river where these kids are bathing, they were just as happy as they could be. And that was just like, they were so content and they didn't know any better. Like they were just happy to be.
Yeah.
And man, that spoke volumes to me as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. This is a question I've always asked. I mean, I've asked myself that same question, you know, like you go into a place and with our kind of privileged American mindset, we're like, oh, these people are poor, they need help, I need to be the one to help them.
Yeah.
And I've been to almost every continent, and I've seen the same kind of situation where they're very happy.
Yeah.
The kids are living their best life. You know, they don't know what they are, quote unquote, missing, but are they missing anything? I don't know. It's always been a question in my mind, especially when it comes to like short-term mission trips, which I've never been a huge supporter of. I've always had a hard time with it because I'm like, what difference are we really making? And I know that God can use all types of situations, but I would love to know y'all's perspective on that, where it's like, yes, they are living in adverse conditions. And there is, of course, disease, and there is, of course, things that, you know, need to be addressed, you know, especially like sexual exploitation, disease, food, nutrition. But ultimately, if they're happy and they are, you know, I don't know. It's just like, it's just a question. I just want to throw that on the air and see where it goes.
I'll let Derek go first. I have some thoughts.
Yeah, well, that brings me back to James 1:27, right?
Yeah.
That's what really, that's where God just said, hey, this is what I want you to do. And so, to me, that was a command. Like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to care for, I know the scripture says orphans and widows, but the orphans part really stuck out. And so how do we care for those folks, right? How do we go in and make that difference that I mentioned? And we have enough resources here. Like, I think I've heard people say, like, if we put all of our resources equally across the globe, that everybody would be taken care of, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Socialism.
and maybe that's true. But I think if you go back and you study God's word, there was classes, right? There was middle class, or I don't know if it was middle class, but there was the rich and then there was the poor. And I think since the beginning of time, we understand that through God's word that says, you're always going to have those separations, but what are we supposed to do with that? And so where James 1:27 comes in is that I think we're called to care for those folks that don't have whatever it is, right? We talk about poverty, and that's we were just talking a few minutes ago, whether it's shelter, clothing, medical needs, just the common things that we take for granted here. But I also think that one of the big differences is when we think about poverty, there's also a spiritual poverty.
Yeah.
And so when we care for those folks, I think we need to be Jesus to those people too, right? Whatever you've done to the least of these. And so that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look at, because as Americans, we look at happiness and it's tied to material objects. Happiness doesn't have to, they could be happy and they could be in abject poverty, and we could be happy and also have things or not have things, and so there has to be a separation, because happiness doesn't equate the things that you own. Now, life is easier and it's better to have certain things, like have running water, because I don't want to go to the river at the middle of the night to take a shower, to take a bath, also their electricity helps, so that when winter comes, I'm not, cold, or when as summer is I can be indoors. And those young kids, sure, they're happy, but I'm sure that there are moments where they are struggling really bad.
Yeah.
And we don't see those moments because we haven't spent enough time there. And to realize the need for basic necessities, and so yes, they will be happy and they will continue to be happy. And I think that's part of the sense of us reinitiating the gospel in our hearts and be fine with having less, as taking these kids as an example and saying, this is not what fulfills me and what brings me happiness. The Lord brings me happiness, and I need to be happy in all circumstances.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I love you said that. I think there is a difference as believers. I think we can recognize the difference between happiness and joy, right? And the Bible talks about one of the fruits of the Spirit is joy. And so, I think there is a difference, I think that's well said. Yeah.
Let's go to when we walked in the doors of Project Eden.
Okay.
What was your impression? Because again, we had some of the backstories. We kind of knew a little bit, but we walked in the door. We sat down in the living room with the girls and just got introduced. So walk me through, and you and Shelly too, because I know that Shelly has some perspectives too. So if you give it. Yeah,
one of my favorite videos from that trip is Shelly dancing to a music video with all the girls. So I was nervous. I was really nervous because again, like you said, we knew why they're there in the home. And having that knowledge going in, I didn't know what to expect. And, and not having known each one of their stories, just a general kind of thought process, I certainly didn't want to, be an imposing figure to them, or, coming in being a male to all these girls, like to make them feel uncomfortable. That was certainly not something I wanted to do, but it was a fear that I had.
Was there a sense of like that they would be like sad or depressed, or it wasn't because the environment was very different from what I imagined?
Yeah. That was just it. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. and not only that, walking into their, what we found out later was walking into their comfort zone and disrupting that.
Well, it's their safe zone.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, was a real fear.
Yeah.
So that's what I felt going in.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was for me, I was also very much, concerned. It's like, hey, are we going to be able to, these are very sensitive stories, are we going to be able to film this? And so we got in there and we sat down in the living room. I pulled out my photography camera. They were in love with it.
Yeah.
And I gave it to one of the girls and she started running around and taking pictures of everybody. And then we were dancing in the living room. I was break dancing with them, just having fun. And it just became this like really just like there was no horrible things that have happened. This is just a fun home where everybody's happy, and the stain of the history of these young girls wasn't evident in their eyes, and they were just happy. And it was really incredible because we just had a generalization, but when we went into that first interview with one of the young girls, the older of the girls, the eldest one, she expressed and told us her story, and you find that story in the Vision film, but she had been sexually exploited through online since she was little. I think she was about 11 years old. Her mom didn't want her, so she gave her away to her grandparents. And then her grandparents got a little bit older, got sick around the time she was 11. And then they just couldn't sustain, taking care of her. And so they sent her back to her mom. And so she had this perpetual fear that her mom would get rid of her again. And her mom said, hey, we need money, so this is what you need to do. And started filming her and putting her online. Her and her little sisters. And I think she had a little brother as well. And and that lasted till she was 15 and she got rescued. And she got brought to the Eden home. And she did get a little bit emotional telling that story, but it was just like this reality, this sense of normancy, like this is just what we did. And she didn't even know it was bad until she went to school and kids started telling her, hey, actually, this is not good. This is not what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But with that, she came to the Eden home and got a picture of what Christianity was, what Christ, the love that he has, and what real men, a representation of godly men, should be in a home. So what, when we also wanted to explore a little bit of where that some of the young girls come from. And so what was your experience us going out in the middle of the night to some random streets out in Manila?
Well, first of all, not running in those circles, right? Normally being out late at night in a scary city. Yeah, red light district, if you will. I did not feel safe. And then, some of the things that were captured in the video, when you see it firsthand, it's like, wow. It just, I think there's one scene where there's an older gentleman holding hands with a much, much, much younger girl, and they're now relatives. And it just really, that one particular scene just brought it home for me. Like, this is what's happening. This is reality that's down here. And I didn't feel safe. I couldn't imagine what, young girls would feel like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there was things that we weren't even able to show in the video.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
when we were walking around, there was like one restaurant, and it's open air restaurant, and there was just 10 older gentlemen, look American, and older guys, 60, 70, 80 years old, and they're just there with very, very young girls. I wouldn't pass them. I don't think they're 18, and they would go in and then disappear for half an hour, and then all of a sudden come back.
Yeah. I'm getting that sick feeling again, when I was
Yeah, it's
sitting down there.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible. And they were, just constantly walking back and forth. And
Yeah. What people don't get either is like sex tourism, like that's normal for people.
Mm,
Yeah.
That's a normal thing.
yeah.
Get the boys together, just like going golfing. It's just like, yeah. And there's some incredible organizations that are tackling that head on, that are being very loud about it. And yeah, I think it's a very appropriate topic to be talking about, especially everything going on politically right now, and Epstein and our government and all of our leaders and all these people on this list. Is like, oh yeah, this is real, and this is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Even right here in safe Bible Belt, Tyler, Texas. It's huge.
Yeah. So true. And I think until we start tackling that head on, as you mentioned, and more people get involved to just call that out for what it is, it's just wrong. It's going to continue to grow. And it's that's why we need help. That's why we need more organizations like Project Eden. We need more organizations like Agape Men at Home. As I mentioned before, 1.8 million orphans over there, and over 80% of them are victimized in this way. Anything we can do to help them. One thing I did want to mention, Shaddai, the story that you were talking about with the young girl. There's good news to that story.
Yeah.
And she has left Project Eden.
Yeah.
And one of the family members that was involved in that abuse passed away. And so she has been reunited with her family. And you talk about the great work that Project Eden does. They brought her up in this loving home. This is where she felt safe, as we talked about. She got to learn the gospel and learn what it looks like, as you mentioned, Shaddai, to learn what godly men look like in her life. So she's gone back home. But the one desire that she talked about with Corey and Chelsea was, I can't wait to share the gospel with my family. Think about that.
That's incredible.
This girl that has gone through all of this, her one desire is to be able to do that with her family. And I thought, how cool is that?
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Wow. So, Derek, right now, you recently took a position with Manna Worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel? What does Manna Worldwide do?
Yeah.
Because I know that they touch a lot of different sectors.
They do. Your first question was, how does it feel?
From corporate world to
Yeah.
raising support
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being with a nonprofit.
So as I started going out, and while it's true, I do need to raise my own support as a missionary for Manna Worldwide. I had a couple of, you start with your friends, right, in families, you start raising support. And so I have a very good, close couple to me and Shelly. Actually, we were in a life group together in Houston. And as I shared my support story with them, one of the first things they said is that, Derek, we can see the passion and what this has done to you in your life. And so to me, when you ask me how I feel, I think I feel like I thought baseball was going to be it, but now I know this is where God wants me. And so now I feel like this is my purpose. And so that's the answer to the first question.
Fulfilled.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm just getting started. So I can't wait to see a year from now what this looks like. But Manna Worldwide is an organization that was started about 25 years ago by a fellow named Bruce O'Neill. He was a missionary in the Philippines, of all places. Started through his mission over there and planning a church, started a food or a nutrition center, we call them at Manna, to help feed these impoverished kids in the Philippines. I believe the city where it's still there, is called Cebu. And but he was getting called back to the States, as a lot of missionaries do. And he was like, how am I going to continue to feed these kids? Because that's what's important. Where the resources come from, all of the other particulars, like those are important. But the main thing is that these kids don't miss a meal. Right? That's the most important thing. And so he's like, how do I continue this? So he reached out to resources in the state. It kind of started building a bridge between churches and that particular nutrition center. Other missionaries were like, Bruce, how did you do that? And so he started bringing on these other missionaries. 25 years later now, Manna is in 50 countries and has over 300 projects going on, to include orphanages, churches, medical facilities, schools. They dig wells for water. They have nutrition centers throughout the world. So the overarching goal for Manna Worldwide is to rescue children from the grip of poverty. And I know I already mentioned, we think of poverty as physical needs, the way Jesus did. He would go and meet a physical need, but then he would meet the spiritual need. And that's what Manna was called to do.
Amen.
I love that.
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
So where are you going next?
That's a great question. As we've talked about already, I spent 10 years playing professional sports and then over 20 years in the corporate world, and retired May 30th and just started with Manna June 16th. So as I'm and one of the things I'm required to do is raise my own support before I get to go out into the field and kind of really do, like we all want to do the work. And so that's what I'm chomping at the bit to do. Like, I love talking to people. I love the hardest part I've had to learn is I've never had to ask anybody for anything, but now I'm asking for support, and that's been really difficult. So the Bible's taught me a lot about that. The Levites were called, like that was their job. Like they were to be supported by the church. And so I'm like, well, gosh, that's kind of biblical. So, and Jesus was taken care of by support. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can do that too if that's what Jesus did, because I'm supposed to be more like him, right? So, so anyway, that's been hard. But the next trip was what you asked. It will be somewhere in Asia. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the Philippines. There's 3 other guys like me that are responsible for the continent of Asia. So we've got things going on in Nepal, Cambodia. We have just did a vision casting trip to China to try to get into China.
Oh, wow.
So it could be, I don't know. I just know I'm excited because that next trip will teach me, Manna will teach me how to lead trips as I take churches and individuals to go.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, just real quick, can you just tell people if they want to support Manna and all the amazing things that they're doing, that you're doing, where do they need to go? What do they do?
Thank you for asking that. It's real simple. You just go to Manna's website at mannaworldwide.com. There's tons of information on that page. And if God leads you in a certain area of ministry, I'm sure you can find it there. If you're looking for how to support Derek and Shelley in our ministry as we get ramped up, or these specific ministries that we mentioned, Agape Manna Home or Project Eden, you can find that on the website.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, we'll make sure to link that as well in the video. So,
Awesome. Thanks.
Derek, thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you
it.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always encouraging just to hear other stories of stepping out in faith after living a life, completely different from what you're doing now. So that's encouraging. And we'll be praying for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks.